I'm here today with Irina Adriaensen, who's actually from Portugal, and she is an Ayurvedic nutrition lifestyle coach, as well as a yoga teacher and a massage therapist. But primarily, her special is through the wonderful system of Ayurveda. If you've never heard of Ayurveda, this is such a great episode to get you a little more acquainted. And if you have heard of Ayurveda, it's still great because we go through each of the three doshas, or the three mind, body, or maybe another way of saying it is personality traits. And learning maybe where you fit into these three mind body types is really cool and beneficial when learning about ourselves and giving ourselves compassion and learning about what specifically foods and what types of movement may actually fit best with our bodies and our temperament and our needs. So please give this a listen, and then go on over to Irina's website where you can actually do a quiz to learn more about your type and maybe the foods and career and types of movement that are going to be best for you. We're all unique, right? And this can help you get a little closer to knowing more about you. Enjoy. It's something that is maybe newer in other parts of the world. And maybe a bit less talked about. So for someone who has never really heard of Ayurveda or knows very little, how would you best describe it? What is
Ayurveda is a holistic healing system that's thousands years old. So it originated somewhere in India. It is set on the border between Pakistan, what is now Pakistan, and India. And it has been written down only maybe 1,000 years ago, but the knowledge has been around and it's been time tested, and how do I talk about this? It's mainly focused on prevention. So there are certain branches in Ayurveda that talk about healing, and there's even like operations and everything, which for 1,000 years ago is pretty groundbreaking. But the main, like a very big part of Ayurveda deals with prevention of disease. So how do you live your life so that you can be healthy for as long as you want, that you can be happy for as long as you want, and to also live according to what is your purpose in this life. So you need a healthy body to do the work that you're here to do. And Ayurveda really helps with that. And yoga is more, let's say, the spiritual side, preparing the body for meditation. And Ayurveda is also a little bit about that, but you need a healthy body to have a healthy mind, and the other way around. And so they're so closely linked, and it's just super interesting.
So I guess yoga and Ayurveda are they're like sister sciences, sort of. Mm-hmm. They help each other in different ways, or they parallel each other.
Exactly, because the way you build your lifestyle, the work you do, the relationships you have, the food you eat will impact how your body will feel. And the other way around, like if you put bad food into your body, yoga is going to be really hard. And the other way around, if you put good food into your body but you're not moving or you're not sitting in meditation, then you might have a calm life, but maybe you're not reaching your full potential there. So they are really closely linked, and they really go together. It's an evolution. So as soon as you progress on one area, then it's easier to progress also in the other area. And so it's like this continually flowing of development, of personal development.
Yeah, they build on each other and strengthen you as a whole. And I think, I really connect with Ayurveda, and I have for a number of years. Actually, I was traveling in Thailand about 8 years ago, And in a lost and found of a hostel I was staying at, there was just this little Ayurveda book. And, I guess I needed a book because I'd finished my other one. And so just not knowing what it was, I picked it up and I just read the whole thing so fast. And from that point on, I was just like hooked. And I think what connects me and I appreciate most is sort of in line with, the holistic health coaching that I'm trained in. It's this notion of bio-individuality. So it's this notion that we all just can't be handed a pill to be healthier or feel better, because we really have to take into account our personality traits and our temperaments and our personal needs and our rhythms. And it seems that Ayurveda does that. It really says, okay, who are you? And then let's figure out what you should be maybe doing because of who you are. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you talk to a few year olds and you ask, how did you get to be 100 years old and you still look 80 or something, you're going to get different answers. Like one person may say, like, I have a tiny bit of alcohol every day, or I never stressed in my life, and another may say, I worked hard every day, every single day, and another may say, I never drank any alcohol, and another say, I lived on chips and mayonnaise or something like that. It's so very different. And that's really what I found in Ayurveda as well. Like, every person is unique. Every person has their fingerprint. And so the healing modalities will also be very specific to one person. And there are ways that you can generalize. There are also types, mind-body types, as we call them in Ayurveda, or doshas. But within that, you can still find a lot of differences, and you still need to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Because it's not because you're one particular type that something will definitely work for you, but it just gives you a much better understanding of what your nature is, and like you said, the temperament, how your digestion is, your sleep, how these things get affected by your work, your relationships, your food, and like the whole thing together. And it can be pretty overwhelming in the beginning, but as soon as you start digging into it, you just find so much richness and wisdom. So,
yeah, it's like any kind of form of, self-exploration. It can start answering some questions and improve some clarity of, oh, that's why that doesn't feel good to me, or that's why that does work for me. And at the same time, I always try to remind myself as well as others that still you're a unique person, and the ticks that you may want to check off for a personality trait, you may not actually do. So like you said, it's still a matter of being, okay, that works for me, but this still doesn't. And being okay with that grayness, right? Like that gray area. But but speaking of all that, I really do want to talk to you about the doshas. So you mentioned that there are these mind-body types that are used in Ayurveda, and there's 3. So you please go through each 3 and at least give us some general sense of helping someone maybe figure out where they could fit with the 3.
Yeah. Okay. So we call mind-body type a dosha, and it literally means that what easily gets out of balance. And the names of the 3 doshas are Vata, Pita, and Kapha. And say that if you are a Vata person, that means that your Vata will easily get out of balance, because it's the dominant trait both in your personality and your body. We'll talk about that. So that's going to get more easily out of balance, because in terms of quantity, it's what's making up the biggest part of you. So how you materialize as a human being is a composition of these 3 doshas, Vata, Pita, and Kapha. But everyone is gonna be materializing in a different way. So your eyes can be this, and your skin can be that, and your body shape can be this, and then your mind can work in another way. And so all these different kinds of body types, you can add these up, and there are so many dosha quizzes on the internet where you can start having an idea. I mean, it's generalized. So I mean, if you do a few of these, you might get different results, but it's a really good starting point to see, okay, this is my body shape, this is how my mind works and my personality traits. So I'm probably more this type. So I would recommend to start with a Dosha Quiz, and I have one on my website as well, but you can find many online. Like if you search Pinterest or something, you can find a lot of them. And your body type, mind body type, or your dosha is determined at the time of your birth. So it's a constant one. But through all the external influences that we're in, so our relationships, our job, or school, or the environment that we're in, the country that we're in, the season that we're in, the age that we're in, all these influences can make that our dosha gets out of balance. And so we work with both what is our nature and what is our current state. And if our current state is out of balance, then we want to bring that back into balance. So say that you are a Vata person who easily gets Vata out of balance, then you want to organize your lifestyle around balancing Vata as much as possible.
That actually answers a big question I've personally had, because I've known about this sort of imbalances that we can all experience, but I wasn't sure if it meant I was bringing one of the other dosha types more in, or just going kind of too far in my own main dosha. And I think that actually makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, they're not really opposed to each other. So we you have to go into the different properties of each dosha to know. For instance, Kapha and Vata, they seem very counter with everything.
Yeah.
And then Pita is another one, but Pita and Vata are often together as well, and so it's a really active person. But I should probably first go through the dosha by dosha. I think that makes more sense before I start explaining things. So let's start with Vata. Vata persons are usually very slender, so very quite skinny, either really tall or rather small, and they move a lot. So if they have like nervous tics or people who speak really fast, that's probably Vata kind of person. They are very quick in their thinking as well. So everything is quick, and mobile and moving. And they're super creative. They're very flexible, often in their bodies as well. So not just in the mind, but also in the body. They're super flexible and like naturally, like not like they have to train for it a lot. And the way that they would get out of balance is because that movement and that flexibility gets too much. So problems making decisions, living in chaos, not being able to finish something, anxiety, sleeping problems. If we're going to digestion, IBS, gas, and a lot of digestion problems are related to Vata as well. So that's a little bit about
Vata is it's like the air quality, right?
Yes, Vata is the elements of air and space combined.
Right.
So the three doshas are composed of two elements each, and the Vata has the lightest element, so that's why they are moving so so easily, so to speak. So it's air and space, or ether, as we call it.
Right, which also sort of talks about that what happens in the brain when Vata gets unbalanced is like I sort of think there's literally more air in the brain, like everything
Yeah, you
ground
can,
settle, it can't ground. There's too much flightiness.
exactly. Yes, that's it exactly. Like Vata has a lot of needs for grounding. They're very perceptive and sensitive and creative, and they're very spiritual creatures. But to live well and to stay balanced in this world, they also really need this grounding.
Yeah, I'm just nodding my head so much because I am very much a Vata.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to Pitta.
Yeah. So where Vata is the indecisive one, Pita is really like super goal oriented. So they have a goal and they go at it, and it doesn't matter if they have to burn everything around it to get to their goal. But Pitas are like that. So it's the combination of fire and water elements, and you'll often see that leaders and managers are of the Pita type.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Let me think. Vata is perceptive, but Pita has also this way of seeing through things. So again, this really piercing quality. So they understand things. They're usually very intelligent. They're really great planners. So if you need something organized, if you're going on a trip with friends, there is the one person who is always organizing everything. That's the Pita in the company. Whereas the Vata is like, yeah, let's see where we end up. And then Pita is like, no, we have a day schedule. But Pitas can also be materialistic. So in terms of they like to make money, they like beautiful things, a beautiful car or something like it. They like beauty around them, and they like to acquire it. So that's also like one of their focal points. A Pita is easily agitated, so they can get a bit aggressive and definitely hangry, because the Pita has super strong digestion. Mm-hmm. So if they don't eat regularly, they are gonna get really like, you don't want to go near Pita who is hungry. So there's that fire that then comes out. So any kind of aggression and agitation is going to come when a Pita is imbalanced. So they're very competitive. So
is that what if their Pita kind of was becoming imbalanced, is that sort of where they would go, sort of more that angry, agitated, irritable place? That's
yes.
That it's a little too much.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, and also the fire that is burning too hard. So we're looking at inflammation, ulcers, skin infections, like anything that you can relate to heat in the body, like irritability. That is definitely Pita coming out. Diarrhea is also Pita.
It's so fascinating how the elements can connect so strongly to both our psychology and mental health, as well as literally the physical. Like you say, Pita is fire, and what does our digestion do? It's burning. Like our metabolism is burning inside us.
Yeah.
And then like the inflammation and stuff that can be literally caused by too much heat, fire. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally we have Kapha, and they're the gentle one. They have a bit of a stronger build, especially like in the muscles. And of all the types, they have the best endurance. So Vata can give up quite quickly. Pita will keep going because they have this goal, and it doesn't matter what they have to do to reach it. But a Kapha has this natural endurance, and like they will also reach their goal, but it takes them a longer time to start. So it's like a diesel, and then like, okay, we're going to do this now. And then as soon as there is the rhythm established, then they're gonna like consistently work towards what they want. And they're very loving and forgiving. They're hardworking because of this reason that they are so consistent. So these are people that you can count on. Like anytime you need help, they are there. This is Kapha. So you'll often see them in doctors and nurses and veterinarians also. So those were typical professions that you would find a lot of Kaphas.
Very caring.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Where would their sort of shadow side or negative side be if they take their Kapha too far? What would that look like?
In one way is that they don't really take good care of themselves. So they forget themselves because they're always giving, over giving to other people and forget about themselves. So they can run themselves completely into the ground, trying to take care of everything and arrange everything for other people. So that's one pitfall. And another way is that they can get really, really stuck in their habits. And then it's really hard to get out. So once the diesel starts going and they get into this rhythm, once they are in this rhythm, they don't want to like start something new. So they are very set in their ways, even though the ways may not be good for them, but they are set, and then they are set, like very stubborn. They're very nice and all, but when they have a point, like they'll stick to it, and like there is no moving them. They're super, of all the types, they're super grounded, so the most grounded of all. So in this case, it's more opposite to Vata, for instance. So yeah, that may be difficult for a Kapha to change. To any kind of change is bad. Like, oh, no, I don't like. They dislike it. They are. I don't know. They just like to be home with their family. They can be a bit. They have a tendency to hoard things. So where Pita is materialistic and likes really nice things, Kapha is accumulating and more and more, and maybe not even like the best of the best, but just as much as possible. So yeah.
That's wonderful. That paints such a good picture of all three. I'm sure everyone listening now is right now going through their library of people in their life being like, oh, she's a that or he's a that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we all know somebody who's like very much one certain type. So it's really interesting to start seeing the types, and it really helps also in understanding other people and how they work. It helps to understand yourself and how you work, but also you can, if you have that insight into other people, then it's easier to relate or understand why somebody is doing one thing. Like if you want to, maybe there is a Kapha that's a bit overweight, or you want them to get to exercise because it's going to do them so good, but they don't want to. Like, they'll say, no, I'm fine here in the sofa. No, leave me be. And then you understand. Yeah.
Because I think any of these belief systems, whatever you want to call it, that help us explore ourselves, I think they're so important to do for that. But equally as important to do to learn about the others around you, because that's also going to strengthen your relationships. Understanding someone else and the way they tick will help you know what's going to help them or what's going to set them off. And I think it's so important to do this work, not just for ourselves. So as we do this work and maybe begin to find some clarity about how we tick, how we work, we can sort of learn what we need or maybe what's best for us. So in terms of these three doshas, I would like to start with talking about maybe some nutrition and how maybe each dosha would look differently at the foods that may feel best to them. How about for Vata, maybe what kinds of nutrition would help keep them grounded or whatever else?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's important to remember that we are unique and we are a composition of all the 5 elements of the 3 doshas. And you can look at your dominant doshas and then take it from there. But it's also possible that, for instance, your body has one dominant type, and then your mind or mentality wise is another type. So it can be really mixed in terms of how you perceive yourself. But in general, Vata, like you said, really needs that grounding. It has this airy quality, and they're always moving. And that's also why they're more slender. So they need to eat foods that are substantial, that are nourishing. They often forget to eat. So this is a really important part of being a Vata, is to establish a routine for sleeping and for eating, so that you don't forget to eat, that you prepare yourself, because otherwise it's just gonna get lost into the whatever is happening in your day. And then when Vata isn't eating properly and isn't sleeping properly, then that's gonna lead to being even more being ungrounded. So to bring that back, there is really the need to set a routine, eat at fixed points in the day. It can be smaller meals and more frequent meals, but often what you'll see Vata do is like they'll just snack throughout the day, and little bits here and little bits there, and they never have a proper meal. So this is something that Vata should be really careful for, to like have complete meals, like not just a little bread with something and then a handful of nuts and maybe a piece of fruit, because that's not gonna sustain Vata, because they need a lot of energy for all the movement that they are doing.
Interesting that natural desire to just sort of graze and just keep, because a grazing mentality keeps you moving. You're allowed to kind of keep going and flittering around. So that is so important for someone to know who maybe thinks they fall into that category, that, okay, for me, I need to more consciously plan my day so I can get the nutrients and the energy I need.
And in terms of further balancing through your activities, they really need some gentle exercise. So Vatas are always moving, but again, it needs to be more premeditated and gentle, because Vata's energy can really go up and down a lot depending on whether they've eaten and slept well or not. And so it's really tuning into like what's happening in my body, how much energy do I have at the moment, and then using that energy for choosing the type of exercise. And sometimes that's just a 15-minute walk or a gentle yoga class, and sometimes it can be a bit more like going for a run or something more cardio type. But if it's too much intensity in your exercise, then your Vata again is gonna get out of balance, because there is just too much movement, and then again there is
it's like out of on something that's already high. Perhaps someone that falls into this category would maybe want to look at the more like lower intensity or resistance, slower types of movement versus the high cardio kind of stuff.
Exactly.
They're
Yeah.
kind of doing that a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And then in terms of foods, like really looking at the grounding foods. So root vegetables are ideal for that because like roots are in the ground. They are really pulling the energy down. So root vegetables are really good, like sweet potatoes and parsnips and beetroots and all of these things. And make it into like warm dishes. So Vata has a cold quality to it, and so we need to bring some warming spices, warming foods, because that's really going to help the irregular digestion of Vata to become a little bit more regular and smoother.
Right, grounding foods from the ground. That is,
yeah,
that's such a good tip. Okay, so how about Pitta? How about foods and exercise for Pitta?
Yeah. So Pitta has this heat. So Pitta is fire. And it also has a lot of like water and oiliness in it. So for Pitta, we definitely want to leave the heating foods like the nightshades and like all the really spicy foods like the hot peppers and hot sauces and things like that. And they need probably the most protein of everybody because they have a very athletic body. And so they need to get the combinations of grains and protein and vegetables right. So if you're eating way more veggies and not substantial things to feed the fire in the belly of Pitta, then the fire is going to die, and like Pitta will be left without energy, will be getting hungry, and yeah, again, we don't want to go there. So they need like proper meals, and yeah, if they don't get those meals, then there will be consequences. So the food needs to be cooling and also really filling.
To me, cooling, I can't really think of cooling and filling together. So like a substantial salad, or like, are we thinking more raw foods, or what is it? What does that mean?
Raw depends on the season also, but Pitta is the one who can digest raw foods the best.
Okay.
If you eat too many raw foods, that can really affect your digestion because raw foods are really hard to digest.
Yeah.
So if you want to have raw foods, which can be really balancing for Pitta, have them at lunchtime because that's when your digestion is strongest. But cooling foods are things like cucumber, coconut, mint, all the things that watermelon or something like that. Like if those things are seasonal, these are the things that people eat in hot countries because it brings the body temperature down. If you eat these foods when it's winter, or if you're more Vata or Kapha type, then it's gonna cool you down even more, and that's gonna bring you out of balance. So it's finding that balance between cooling and heating, and starting to learn and become aware of what different foods are doing to your body.
Yeah, cooling. So hydrating, like hydrating foods. That's cool. So how about then movement for someone who's kind of fiery? What'll actually benefit them?
So Pitta will be very much drawn to competitive sports because they have this very competitive nature, but it is bringing them out of balance. So it can be nice to have like a good tennis session or playing squash or something. But if that's the only type of exercise they have, then that's just gonna build up that competitive streak, and it's gonna build the aggression even more. So in one way, they need to let off steam because water and fire is steam. So they need to let that off. But on the other hand, they also need to make sure that they don't produce that much steam in the first place, so that they go more for the calming activities, and especially group activities, because Pita is so focused on their goal, and they will reach it, and they sometimes forget to have the fun, and they forget that there's other people around that they have to live with, because they are so single-mindedly doing their thing. And so team sports and like being in other people's company will really open the mind of a Pita a bit more to like, oh hey, there's other there's other things and other people around as well. So for Pita, I would definitely recommend, yes, let off steam, but also the grounding activities like a calm walk, or a gentle yoga class to really calm down in the evening. If you have difficulty sleeping, then just winding down after your really busy day, because probably a Pita is going to be in quite a competitive type of job environment as well. So to really bring that down and bring that back to balance, they need to adjust other parts of their lifestyle so that they can find balance.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm just thinking how much self-awareness this takes, because I know, so let's just take me for an example, who I'm pretty strong in the Vata category. And so if my Vata is really kind of high, I'm moving around and I'm anxious, and automatically my automatic thought is to do something that aligns with that feeling. So to do something that's really fast, but really that doesn't make me feel better. It just kind of makes me feel more anxious. So it's that awareness piece that's sort of, we have to learn that. We learn that, okay, I'm feeling really fiery or flighty, so actually what I need is kind of to do the opposite. So automatic in thinking we just need to do more of that thing that we're feeling. So if I'm feeling fiery, I need to go play a really competitive sport, for example, when really it's maybe something else.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lifeline process. I mean, we go through phases, we go through seasons in our life, and as a woman, we go through a monthly cycle as well. So every day we need to check in with ourselves and see, how am I feeling today? Like, what kind of foods do I need? What kind of movement do I need? What do I need to find balance? So it's definitely a learning process.
Constant learning. So what about our lovely kaphas? What kind of movement?
Yeah, so kaphas have a tendency to overeat, and they really like their sweets. So of all the of the three types, they definitely like the munchies, and give them a bowl of popcorn and put them in front of the TV, and they're with their family next to them, or the dogs, and they're in their happy place. So they need to go for lighter foods, because the digestion of kapha works a lot slower, which is why they gain weight more easily. So if you have a Vata dominant person and a kapha dominant person, and you give them the same food, like a kapha will put on weight twice as fast as as a Vata, because the Vata is always moving and burning it off, and the kapha is like more like and chilling and taking it easy. So they need warming foods, but also really light foods. So they need less grains, because that's sugar. So of the three types, they need the smallest portion of grains, like not cut them out, but just a smaller portion, and then proteins, so that they can keep their energy steady, and then a lot of vegetables to really keep that digestion high, and so that they can move the energy, and the fiber will really help with the digestion as well.
Interesting. And so if their habitual tendency is to maybe not move so much, should they be looking to try to move? Or if they are going to, what maybe would they want to do?
Yes, they don't want to move, but they, of all the types, they definitely need it the most, because the other two will naturally do this. and a kapha really needs an incentive. And once they're doing it, like if they sign up for a 5K, they will do it for sure, because they start and the first weeks it's like, I don't want to do this, but they will get it because they will get into it and it will become easier, and then they just keep going. But the initial start, that inertia that is there, that the stagnant energy that can be so typical of a kapha that hasn't moved in too long, needs to be moved away. And one way to do this is with lighter foods, and another way is to really move the body. And so a kapha can benefit more from cardio and like intensive kind of sports, so to get the heart rate up, to get the blood flowing, to get the lymph flowing, so things like the stagnant energy is moved out of the body. And then also they will feel more balanced, and it will be easier to have lighter foods. And then again, that is a process or sort of momentum that they get into.
It sounds like possibly any movement of moving their body could really, in fact, make them feel better or benefit them, but they need that awareness piece to know, like, okay, I really don't want to do this, but I know if I start, I'll do it and I'll probably feel better. So it's more that choosing to do it, pushing through that bit of discomfort, and then just moving in any way, a walk or something. Yes. Or anything.
Kaphas are very good with the dog, getting a dog, so they need to walk every day. Yeah, and it depends where your starting point is. Like, you don't have to go to a 1 hour Zumba class or something really, high intensity if you come from zero. So you need to build it up slowly, and then you can build up to the 1 hour class, but it takes a while. So knowing where you are and then start building it up, even if it's just like dancing it out for 5 minutes in the middle of the day, if you're not doing anything, then that's already an improvement. So step by step is the way to.
I love how you also just sort of said it, like, the movement is to get that stagnant energy out. It's not for the goals that so much of society puts on us. Movement, this is kind of what I work on with clients, is it's more that getting the stress out, feeling good, not for any other external reason. And I think this really can teach a great piece of compassion. So again, for someone like me who knows, okay, actually doing this really slower grounding piece of movement is okay and better for me, or going to help me feel better. And for someone who's a little more kapha to know, okay, this is kind of who I am. I'm not naturally inclined to do these movements, and that's just who I am. So, what do I need to do to make sure I'm sticking to who I am, but also benefiting myself? So that compassion piece about, we're all different. We all have different desires and natural tendencies, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing that we all have in common is we need to move, and we need healthy foods that are whole foods, like plant-based.
Yeah.
That's our history, that's our genes, that's what we need. So, and the proportions are different for everybody, and also the types of movement, but everybody needs movement, everybody needs plant-based foods. So those are the two really big pillars of Ayurveda and any holistic healing science in general, I would say.
So kind of quickly, as we begin to wrap up, if someone's getting kind of interested in Ayurveda and maybe wants to think about incorporating some things, I mean, someone doesn't need to go 200% Ayurveda everything, right? How can they sort of just take pieces of this belief system or this historical medicinal set of beliefs and just have little bits to help them out to maybe start?
Yeah, I mean, Ayurveda says that we have to transition slowly, because if you like change your diet from one day to the next, or you suddenly start exercising like a madman, that's gonna bring you out of balance and not into balance. So that's why I was also talking about the build up for kapha, but it's the same for Pita and Vata. So you can't ask a Vata to sit down in meditation for an hour. They'll go nuts in their head, but they can learn to build up to it because like they're the type that will have the biggest resistance to meditation. But it's about building up and going slow and just knowing where you're going to. And I would recommend to start, like, take a Dosha quiz and then see with which type you resonate the most, and then start like just becoming aware of your lifestyle, of the foods that you're eating, and then you can make some small changes and see how that goes, and then just keep building it up and building your awareness is going to be the most important thing.
Yeah, so maybe I'll link some links to some dosha quizzes. Well, you had said you have one on your website.
I do.
So tell us where we can find you. Where's your website and whatever else?
Yeah, so my website is www. So 3 W's dot foreversunday.org. And then on my main page, you have, so on my homepage, you can subscribe to get the Dosha quiz. And it's actually a whole workbook. So you also get the recommendations for each of the types. So what we talked about now is all written in this book. And then you can pick it from there. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Then definitely everyone should go over and get that whole workbook so they can actually start this awareness piece and kind of start this work of learning how to best serve our own bodies. That is fantastic. So great. Thank you so much for explaining these 3 doshas so well. I feel like I have a much better sense of the 3. So thank you for giving us all your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure.